All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone had a good time last night, both at the reception and going to see Arlington and DC and having dinner and those types of things. We had a great day yesterday. Joel, I really appreciate you kicking us off and starting the meeting and really setting the tone for the meeting, which really is about how to address issues and how to make the program at the environmental management program work very well, which is focus on cleanup, but then also focus on opportunities for reuse and redevelopment. I think the partnership between EM and NE is something that we'll probably talk about today, but there's also a strong partnership between EM and NSA, Office of Science, and the rest of DOE, which is a critical piece of how things actually work within the department as we're moving forward. One of the things, ECA is always trying to make sure that the nuclear industry knows about your communities, knows what's going on, and that you all know what's going on, not just at your site and your community, but also around the country. And, we publish this report From Atomic Age to New Nuclear. We continually update it also, and it's hard to keep up with all the different announcements that are going on as we go forward. But the latest version has the Oklo announcement that just occurred in Oak Ridge, and then obviously the one in Idaho as we're moving forward. But please grab a copy of this. And what we've told communities also is if you want copies to hand out in your own community, your own events, please tell us, and we can print whatever the latest is as we continue to update them as we move forward. The only other thing that I really wanted to do for housekeeping was to, thank again our new incoming chair, Chuck Hope, who's a council member from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. We're excited that we have a new executive board that takes over in January from the great board that we have now. And Mayor Casper is our vice chair of ECA. She's been our vice chair for the last 4 years. She's been on the executive committee for close to 10 years and has been a real leader and a real spokesperson for the organization, both here in the United States and also internationally. She's participated in a lot of IAEA events and really helped us set up the Global Partnership of Nuclear Communities, which are communities like ECA all around the country. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Casper to introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see as many people as we have in seats right now. I imagine that there are a few more who will trickle in. But in fact, as Seth had mentioned, ECA originally formed in the 1990s, and it was primarily NNSA and EM communities that were banding together to try to amplify their voice, to educate themselves, and to be able to become effective partners in the cleanup endeavor. But over the years, we have found that it's not just the, quote, burden of cleanup that was worth coming together about. In the last 5 years, we've spent a lot of effort and energy as an organization, also finding ways to educate ourselves to be able to better participate in what we call the new nuclear economy, right? What advanced reactors are bringing to the world. We feel as energy communities that we are uniquely positioned to be able to offer something of value when it comes to siting new facilities, when it comes to helping other communities figure out how they too can benefit from what we know about the entire ecosystem of how do we mine uranium all the way to how do we consider a DGR, right? And we want to be able to be a part of that. Well, we don't want to. We are a part of, but we want to be even more effective in being a part of educating communities all across the country that are interested in this kind of experience and opportunity. So to that end, we created within ECA the New Nuclear Initiative, and we've put a lot of effort and energy into that. One element of our New Nuclear Initiative is the new nuclear forums that we've been holding. And the last one was held in my community in Idaho Falls this past April. Our fifth new nuclear forum will be held in Augusta, Aiken, South Carolina, in April of 2026. So we encourage you, there's some reference to it in the various publications that we have out in those magazines, but put that on your calendar if in fact you are someone who, or you know someone who would want to attend. Aiken in April, Augusta, Aiken, April, right? It's just all those AAA right there. The other thing that Seth did allude to was our efforts to be a part of the global conversation around the development of nuclear and well, to be perfectly honest, all aspects of nuclear. We have found, as he mentioned, that we have soulmates all around the world. And the Energy Communities Alliance pulls communities together from the United States, but GMF pulls them together throughout the entire European Union. CANAC pulls them together in Canada. I don't know the names, but we've got organizations in South Korea, an organization that pulls together their leaders. We've got Argentina that has an organization that's pulling their efforts together. Japan has an organization that pulls those community leaders together. And we're trying to become more and more connected throughout the world. It was easy to start with all the English-speaking global partners, but now that we're getting into the translation issues, it's a little slower going, but it's thrilling work. It's exciting that ECA and that little old mayors from smaller communities throughout the United States can be a part of this global conversation. And we do call that the global partnership. And if anybody has a desire to know more, talk to me, talk to Mayor Gary, talk to Seth, and we'll be happy to kind of let you know a little bit about what we're doing. So you're thinking, hey, lady, who are you and why are you here? I'm Rebecca Casper, serve as the mayor of the city of Idaho Falls. Seth may have mentioned that. I was too nervous to pay attention to what he said. But my community has cleanup, but it also has that new nuclear mission. So I care a lot about this. I will also say that why is she talking about all this nuclear stuff at an EM cleanup workshop? And I think that's because there is absolutely a nexus between all the benefits that come with nuclear. Nuclear is that non-carbon emitting, reliable baseload power that potentially gives us not just electrical energy, but process heat, national security, grid security, improved international relationships. It gives us technological advances. It gives us excellent jobs and overall improved communities when we embrace nuclear in our communities. And how does that relate to cleanup or addressing the consequences of all those benefits? I think that we can naturally say that the nexus there, some might call it your responsibility. The nexus is the responsibility of those who generate side products or waste products need to deal with those. Others might think of it differently, but to me, it is a relationship. NE opportunities and EM responsibilities go hand in hand. I do not think that NE will take off and soar like we want it to. I hope that it does. And with it, a lot of U.S. leadership opportunities throughout the world that won't happen if we don't address the opportunities that are associated with cleanup. And so that's why it's important, I think, to talk about both at this conference, even though our focus is on the technology and the thrill of cleaning up our environment. The nexus is there. So today, it's my privilege to be able to introduce someone that my friend Laura says is a very smart guy, but this would be Dr. Rian Bahran. And he comes to us from the NE side of the house. He's currently serves as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Nuclear Reactors. He oversees that very comprehensive portfolio that will include research, development, demonstration, and deployment of advanced reactors. But he's also looking at, the cutting edge technologies and the economic sustainability pieces and the commercial fleet that we currently have in this country, whether it's maintaining the one we have or developing the new fleet. He began his career at Lannel, and he was there for over a decade. His bio says that he was an experimentalist. Never really heard that phrase in a bio. I love it. He was an experimentalist. He also did serve as the undersecretary, served as a senior advisor to the Undersecretary of Defense when it came to policy. He was also notably someone who was the Assistant Director for Nuclear Technology and Strategy in the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. When you get to the White House, you got to be pretty sharp, right, to be there. So I think Laura was right when she said he was a smart guy, but she said more than that, by the way. But anyway, he received his undergrad and his PhD from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I've known how important and prestigious that institution is ever since I was in high school. So we've got an RPI grad in the house. That's pretty impressive. His research that he, and I don't know your topic for your PhD, but your research was funded by Naval Reactors. And we all know that Naval Reactors is one of the primary reasons that half the room is here. Naval Reactors is part of our DNA in this country, our nuclear DNA. So it's a real privilege, I think, to have in our midst Dr. Bahran, and I would commend him to you. And if you have questions, save them up. We might have time for some when he's done. So come on up and bless us with your thoughts about that nexus and why it's important to have you here.
Great.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for that really kind introduction, and thank you for your leadership, Mayor, on these issues. So I'm really, really happy to be here. What an exciting time to be in nuclear energy. You know, in 2006, I think I interned at one of these companies that was designing a high temperature small modular reactor. And, you know, for the past, I don't know, 15, 20 years that I've been working in these areas, nobody knew what SMRs were. Nobody knew what microreactors are. And now if I'm on the subway and I say, hey, this is what I do, people say, hey, do you know about those small modular reactors and those microreactors? It's really incredible. And I think it's, you know, for a lot of reasons, right? Obviously, you know, you've probably heard the word, you've heard the word renaissance from the secretary. You know, I've been saying we're at a tipping point for accelerating deployment of nuclear technology, right? We're just at the cusp of really, you know, both not just building gigawatt scale plants, but also finally seeing SMRs and microreactors, you know, getting to the point where they can be deployed at a commercial scale. And I think one of the reasons why people are really excited and know more about this is because one of the kind of non-traditional end users that have jumped into the game are these AI hyperscalers. And so I remember last year when I started seeing the headlines about, you know, Amazon invested or led an investment round of $500 million in an SMR company, X Energy, one of the ones that we have under our advanced reactor demonstration program. That was a huge headline, but then it was followed by NVIDIA had led an investment in a different company that's under advanced reactor demonstration program. Google has signed offtake with another company that we have funded in the Department of Energy. Meta put out a RFI. And so all of a sudden, you know, it became normalized that these kind of giant, you know, companies that everybody knows is now talking about nuclear. And so really, really exciting time. And I think, you know, I think because of the drive for load growth, including that coming from AI, you know, that not just need for electricity, not just for our citizens, but also to kind of win at AI. And I'll talk a little bit more. I mean, I think that's becoming now one of the first among equals arguments for why we need to accelerate deployment today and why it's putting it on a real kind of pathway. So I'm really happy to be here. So over in the Office of Nuclear Energy, we've been directed by the Secretary to give every nudge that we can to industry to be able to achieve this new renaissance and accelerate. And in addition to that, the President on May 23rd signed 4 executive orders. 4. We've never had executive orders on promoting nuclear energy, at least in the time that I've been working on policy or programmatic issues. We had 4 on May 23rd. And these executive orders, they say a lot and they do a lot. And we have been really, really busy focused on implementation in the past, you know, 5 or 6 months. And the executive orders, they lay out they have big muscle movements, but the big ones are, of course, a plan to modernize nuclear regulation, both for the DOE and the NRC, a plan to deploy reactors for national security, which kind of my words is it tells the DOD to get serious about actually having nuclear reactors for installations. DOD has been talking about this for many years, but the executive order tells them to stand up a program of record, which in DOD vernacular is that's pretty serious and very exciting. So, you know, we've been working hand in hand with them for many years. And so we're just looking to continue to support them. And it's a great use case for the DoD. If you want to keep the lights on a bad day for a long time, you know, a backup diesel generator will get you what, a couple of weeks, months? A microreactor, and there's a lot of designs, but the kind of minimum is about 2 years and can go up to 20 years without refueling, right? And you attach that to a microgrid, now you can keep a base that you want to keep the lights on for a bad day on for years. So really exciting. There's a lot in the executive orders about fuel, both uranium, plutonium, and a lot about reinvigorating the industrial base. That includes focuses on supply chain, workforce, which is a key component. And so the big kind of ambitious goal that the executive order set out is 300 gigawatts by 2050 of new nuclear. It's a lot. And so if you think about just notionally, let's pick 2035 as a notional target on the way there. So not a USG position, but just kind of a mental thing. If I want 50 gigawatts by 2035 on the way to 300, all of a sudden you start doing the math and kind of we know from a technical perspective, what's the ceiling on how many gigawatts I can get from uprates of the current fleet? And what's the ceiling in terms of potential restarts of current reactors? And you've seen some of those headlines. And then how many gigawatt scale reactors do I have to build? And the executive order says, hey, start building them as soon as you can. Start building AP1000s domestically and internationally now. I think with a goal of let's get 10 done by 2030. Even when you do that math, you're like, I still need more. That's not going to get me to 300. And so this is where SMRs, Gen 3 Plus, which is a shrunken version of the current fleet, Gen 4, the more advanced concepts that have things like process heat, things that we have been doing from an R&D perspective to de-risk these technologies, they're finally at the forefront of getting deployed. And then microreactors, right? They support both resilient applications for not just the military. There are other industrial uses for microreactors, semiconductor fabrication facilities. They get a sag and voltage, you know, it could gum up their system and cost them millions. Data centers, you know, they want to keep running, whether you're training AI models or doing inference. If you're playing around ChatGPT, you need that to work. I mean, ChatGPT, maybe if it's slow, that's okay. But as we rely more and more on AI, including on the national security mission, we're going to want those things to be powered. So a lot of excitement. And in our office, and certainly in my portfolio, our job is to take both our research, development, demonstration, and deployment, both our programs that have been appropriated, but then we have some pilot programs that I'm going to talk about that's looking to accelerate the testing of advanced microreactors. We're trying to take all of these and push and get to the nudge where we can deploy and accelerate deployment to meet those targets. So let me talk a little bit about some of our programs that are helping with this tipping point. I'm going to start with one that you probably have read about, which is really exciting. It's our reactor pilot program. And so in June, we established the DOE Reactor Pilot Program, which provides a DOE pathway for advanced reactor demonstration to fast-track commercial licensing. And so what does this mean? For those of you that don't follow the kind of a wonky thing called DOE authorization, today, if you want to build quickly and test a microreactor, you can do it under DOE authorization. You don't have to pursue an NRC license if it's just a test reactor that doesn't have a commercial purpose. This is something that's been on our playbook for a long time. Idaho National Laboratory, you know, is really, really good at being able to not just build research reactors, but potentially test reactors. We've done this for the military. We've done it for different types of applications. We're likely going to do this for NASA as well, for their ambitions to put reactors on the moon, which, by the way, is in the purview of my office. It's not just about load growth, but it's also about enabling reactors for getting to space, you know, for powering emergency response applications, right? To open up those applications, maritime, those things are important, and we're supporting and working with those agencies, but they are all unlocked by getting to the commercial viability for fixed terrestrial reactors, right? All of that work, if we can make them commercially viable on the ground, it opens up an application for space, right? And so we're finally at the point where we're able to leverage these major investments by the taxpayers, both with public and private partnerships that we have been able to establish with a milestone approach to both get reactors, multiple types of reactors across that the different buckets that I mentioned to the point of commercial viability. And I say commercial viability because AP1000s are commercially viable today. For SMRs and microreactors, the theory of the case has always been if I make it smaller, I will lose the economies of scale unless I can make it modular and I can make it in factories. And that's always been the case. And the challenge is, okay, but you know, you need to build the first one. And that's where the government has really helped with public-private partnerships or this program to accelerate testing that first one. But the hope is that you eventually get enough orders that you can get those factories built. And we're seeing that with some of our investments. I'll talk in a bit about some of our larger public-private partnerships under ARDP. But back to the reactor pilot program. So for those of you that don't follow DOE authorization, we know how to test reactors at Idaho National Laboratory and at the other laboratories under DOE authority. And so what this program does, it says, hey, look, industry, we will work with you. It's, they've told us, look, they have the funding. All they need from the U.S. government is help them get some fuel if they need high assay, low enriched uranium, for which we don't have a domestic capacity today, but we are doing a ton in the department to unlock that, with some major appropriations. So we're helping them get fuel for that first test, and we're helping do everything that we can, right, to ensure that they can turn on a reactor safely. And what that looks like is, for them, if they have a design, they're working with our national laboratories to get to do the safety analysis so that we can do the safety evaluation quickly. It is still the top priority for the secretary to ensure that these reactors are safe, but we can do it very, very quickly for a test reactor. We know how to do this. We work with them to get the fuel, and the pilot program is mandated by the president is to test at least 3 reactors by next year, right? And I remember when we got that tasking, it was both exciting and invigorating. But I can tell you right now, we are on track. We are on track, and it's not necessarily just because of the department, but it's because industry has really put their money where their mouth is, and we are finding ways to tackle all of the challenges associated with whether it's fuel, supply chain, ensuring that they have the technical expertise bolstered by the national laboratories to do a strong safety evaluation analysis that can support the safety evaluation headquarters. So we are on track to test 3 reactors by next year. In addition to the pilot program for the reactors, we also established a fuel line pilot program. We recognize that we have a big play in government to ensure that we have a domestic enrichment capacity in the United States. And that's really important because all of these reactors need uranium. But one of the bottlenecks was specifically fuel fabrication, and specifically TRISO-based fuel. And for those of you who don't follow TRISO, a lot of the high temperature gas reactors, a lot of the microreactors use this coated particle fuel, right? Multiple coatings. Each piece of fuel serves as kind of its own mini containment vessel. Really great for passive safety. Some of these designs are walk-away free. But there is no domestic real production capacity, or at least commercial production capacity. And so we similarly used our ability to provide DOE authorization, and we awarded Standard Nuclear a contract to be able to get DOE authorization to quickly ramp up and stand up a facility to make fuel for our pilot programs. And similarly, we expect that they will actually be able to make fuel for a reactor that we turn on next year. The pace that we are moving in the department is unlike anything I've ever seen, and it's really, really exciting. But we are just trying to keep up with industry that is really committed to accelerating deployment. So that's one of our newest initiatives. Let me move on to AI. I talked a little bit about the excitement and interest of hyperscalers and how really nuclear energy for AI has put nuclear on the map in a way that it has not been before. And so one of the things that we are doing is trying to figure out how can the U.S. government support the nuclear energy for AI, in addition to helping with the deployment, with the R&D and the deployment activities. And so one of the things that the Secretary has mandated us to look at, he talked about it in his confirmation hearing, and it was in one of the executive orders, is looking at federal lands. Can we offer federal lands to support both co-location of a data center and an advanced reactor? Because both of those are priorities, right? For us, the Secretary talks about Manhattan Project 2.0 being winning at AI, and there's a clear recognition and understanding now that you need energy to win at AI, right? You need energy for the compute to train the AI. So earlier this month, we issued a request for applications to seek proposals from U.S. companies to provide data centers and energy generation at Idaho National Laboratory, 44,000 acres of land that they could lease. And it's one of just the first of hopefully multiple solicitations by DOE, because Idaho was one of 4 sites identified by the Department of Energy for AI infrastructure and generation projects. The other sites, as you may know, are the Oak Ridge Reservation, Paducah, and Savannah River sites as well. And so we're looking forward to, in this case, being part of the conversation with both not just the reactor side of the house, which is our bread and butter, but also the AI data center and hyperscaler side of the house to see if we can work on having a joint project there through our federal lands. And of course, we're doing this in consultation with the states, the local governments, the federally recognized tribes, because we understand that these projects are really not just there to advance the goals of ensuring that we have leadership in artificial intelligence, but also to meet the energy and load growth in the United States. So in addition to being excited about nuclear energy for AI, I am equally excited about AI for nuclear energy. I don't know about you all, but I am an avid user of all of the frontier models, ChatGPT, Claude. I try them all. I pay for different ones at different times because of the uplift that it provides me on not my work, actually on my day-to-day basis, things that I'm actually not good at home. And it's been really exciting, and it's been clear to me from when I arrived in this job is that we have to take advantage of frontier AI models and their ability to accelerate deployment. So not just uplifting and allowing us in the department and our researchers and our industries to do what we're doing faster, but potentially actually provide a technological leap so that we can do things very, very differently. So we've established an AI for nuclear deployment initiative. And the goal here is, and everybody says they're doing AI, and that's great. It's kind of a shotgun approach. Our attempt is to focus the conversation on nuclear, which is how do we use AI to help with design, licensing, autonomous operation, and then the R&D. And I don't just mean uplifting the R&D, but things like autonomous laboratories, right? We have a lot of data, we have a lot of experience at the national laboratories, and we have a lot of work with industry. And so how do we work on that together? The licensing is probably one of the most exciting things. When I talked about the pilot projects, I mentioned that if you test a reactor and do DOE authorization, that can provide you a fast track to an NRC license. So what does that look like? What that means is that, the folks that do the safety evaluation are technical experts that do a similar analysis to what the NRC would do. And so the idea here would be for the NRC, they wouldn't have to kind of replicate or duplicate the work. It's the same type of harmonization that we do with other countries, right? Doesn't mean that you have to carbon copy what we did, but you don't have to replicate all of the technical evaluation. And so this is one of the areas where AI and an AI agent in the future could be really, really helpful, right? You can imagine AI agents talking to each other on regulatory issues. Autonomous operations is another important piece. Microreactors are still going to be pretty expensive. Again, you're really losing economies of scale. And so the operation, the O&M costs, especially for a remote facility, if you're trying to power a remote facility, the amount of operators that you would need there, of course, is going to actually increase your costs in a way that a gigawatt scale reactor won't experience. So a lot of excitement there. And so we're looking forward to partner not just with the reactor side of the house, but actually with, there's a whole host of new AI application developers that we're working with, and we're quite excited. Now, let me talk about some of our deployment programs. I'll start with Gen 3 Plus. The department is looking to, we're looking to award by the end of this calendar year, $800 million to spur a first mover team to deploy Gen 3 Plus SMRs. Again, Gen 3 Plus is a shrunken version of the current fleet. And for us, we're looking to address some of the gaps that have hindered getting to this fleet mode deployment. This is things like site preparation, licensing, kind of de-risking on the front end. It's a really exciting opportunity, I think, because Gen 3 Plus reactors, they have been, from my opinion, ready to go. We're just kind of stuck at the stalemate of nobody wants to move first. And so the appropriations that came from Congress, the program that we've designed, the goal is to spur that fleet mode deployment of Gen 3 Plus reactors, which are needed. Let's talk about Generation 4. And so we have some major investments through the Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program. And these projects are progressing. So you've heard of X-Energy, the XC100, which is a high temperature gas reactor that we're looking to demonstrate. This is again a public-private partnership cost share between us and X-Energy and Dow. And that's going to happen in Texas at Seadrift. So I talked about order books, right? That investment has been going on for a while. And just so you know, the investor confidence has resulted in, I talked about the Amazon 500 million investment in X-Energy, and they did that because they're looking to deploy up to 5 gigawatts in Washington State of X-Energy reactors, right? So that's an order book that's built on a public-private partnership that the Department of Energy engaged with these companies on, right? Nobody wanted to build the first one, so we said, let's work on that together. And all of a sudden, we're seeing that order book in Washington State. Last week, the president actually announced on TV that X-Energy has signed an additional order book with the UK to deploy up to 6 gigawatts. They're working with Centrica, one of their major utilities. I think it's the biggest utility in the UK. Funny enough, when that announcement happened, Centrica, I mean, I was always told that if a utility announces a partnership with a nuclear power plant, that their stock will go down. Centrica's stock went up. We are in a different time, and so really exciting developments there. Also expecting so TerraPower, which is one of our other ARDP projects, and they're building their first reactor in Wyoming. This is the company that then secured an NVIDIA investment that was led by NVIDIA up to $650 million. Again, we are de-risking and unlocking private investment in a way. I think we've seen over $2 billion of new money come in over the past 9 months into this sector. And so these public-private partnerships are working. And the TerraPower team is working to demonstrate the reactor in Wyoming near a retiring plant. And so we expect to see their construction permit application by the end of the calendar year. And both of these companies are working through the NRC, and NRC is committed now to accelerated timelines as directed by the executive order, 18 months. And, I'll tell you, a lot of excitement, because these companies, especially for these advanced reactor companies, their two big issues historically has been regulatory uncertainty on timelines and fuel. And they're seeing real progress from the government to unlock both of those. And then finally, for the advanced reactor demonstration projects, Kairos Power also started nuclear construction earlier this year at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. They've partnered with Google, who's provided them with a credible offtake agreement. And so they're also a high temperature gas reactor that uses fluoride salt as a coolant. These concepts we have been working on from an R&D perspective for years, and it's just so exciting to see them go from, concepts on paper to actually being deployed. I'll talk about, we have a National Reactor Innovation Center at Idaho National Laboratory, and we have a couple of capabilities there. One is called the DOME, the other one's called Lotus. So if you're a reactor vendor, especially a microreactor vendor, and you don't want to, build a whole reactor on your own, you can come and bring it into a facility that has already been designed with a safety analysis. We still have to do the safety analysis with you, but DOME is one of those that we're looking to test microreactors in. We expect the first field experiment. We made conditional selections to Radiant Westinghouse, and we expect the first fielded reactor experiment will start as early as spring 2026. Similarly, for Lotus is a test bed where we're looking to demonstrate a maritime reactor in the next couple of years. And so, we're doing the public-private partnerships on private land. We're doing the pilot programs on or off public land, and then we have these test beds where you can just show up with your concepts and work with us and really advance the mission. And we have Marvel, which is a microreactor that we've been working on for years. And there we're trying to demonstrate end-use applications. So in addition to maturing the commercial viability of the technologies, we're also hand-in-hand working on the application piece. How do we actually take advantage of, I know it's really easy to hand wave, microreactor, data center, go, right? And it's actually not that simple, right? If it's a data center, what's the ramp rate that's needed, right? If I have a big enough, let's say, query, not me asking for ChatGPT for help with, I'm not super handy just by being an engineer, so I ask for help when I'm working on my basement. But when you have queries that are large, it can be, megawatts, hundreds of megawatts potentially. This is what we're hearing from industry. So looking at end-use applications related to heat conversion, related to data centers, and doing that actual kind of interface are things that we're doing and looking at doing with Marvel. So I'll end by talking about some of our partnerships with EM on future nuclear activities. And so I mentioned, of course, our collaboration on looking at co-locating AI data centers and reactors on DOE sites, including on EM sites. And EM has been a tremendous partner, as is NNSA and Science in this endeavor. And so, these activities are important, and a few of the highlights that you probably have read about is that Paducah, there was an announcement in August of the signing of a lease with General Matter for the reuse of a 100-acre parcel of federal land for new private sector domestic uranium enrichment. I noted earlier, one of the biggest issues that everybody has been worried about is the ability to secure fuel for reactors, for the current fleet and for advanced reactors. And so that was a huge announcement to help build America's nuclear fuel base. In addition, of course, there's the Oak Ridge East Tennessee Technology Park, and there's a Kairos project there that I had mentioned earlier. Kairos, again, partnering with Google, and Iran was also developing an enrichment capacity expansion. So, I hope I was able to kind of provide you with a general overview of here's the goal, here's the activities that we're doing in the department, here's how fast we're moving, and here's how great the partnership is, not just with our colleagues in EM and across the building, but with industry and with you all. I don't know if we have time for questions, but thank you so much for your attention.
We are just a little bit short on time. We've run over, we started late, but we do have, do you happen to have any time to be here at all this morning? A few minutes. So if anybody has any burning questions, maybe we can slip out into the foyer. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and invite the next group up. So David Replog, your panel, come on up, and we'll be hearing about a new phase for Hanford cleanup next. But thank you so much, Dr. Bahran.